If you stumble across this video, congrats, or maybe good luck, because these might be the scariest stories I've ever told. I've seen a lot of horror, yet these 3 stories sent chills straight down my spine. No joke, I'm drinking hot water in the middle of summer. As always, I'll be telling the story in first person, and if you see this little ghost pop up on screen, that means a creepy image is coming. So if you're easily scared, now's your chance to cover your eyes. Ready? Let's begin. This happened in 2013 in Guangdong province. Around that time, a lot of people in our village started making some decent money and began buying their own cars. I was super envious, but my paycheck was tiny and I was barely getting by. Owning a car felt like a distant dream. Then, one day in October, luck just dropped in my lap. A guy who owned a repair shop told me he had a second-hand car in great condition, and the price was crazy low. He asked if I was interested. Of course, I want to check it out first. It had only run about 20,000 kilometers, and during the test drive, everything felt smooth. No weird noises, no problems. I figured I just got really lucky. So I scraped together all my savings and bought it on the spot. After a bit of cleaning and touching up, honestly, it looked brand new. That weekend, I couldn't wait to take it for a spin and finally feel what it was like to own a private car. The autumn breeze was cool, the vibe was peaceful. I was really enjoying myself. I kept driving along this highway that led into a small forested area. It was super quiet, which made me focus more on the road. But then, I started getting this strange, strong feeling, like someone was watching me. And not just anywhere, the gaze felt like it was coming from below me. Maybe I just wasn't used to the new car or something. Either way, I brushed it off, drove around until sunset, then went home and took a break. That night, around 11 p.m., I was watching TV when suddenly, I heard a car alarm blaring outside. In the quiet of the night, it was loud. Normally, I wouldn't care. But now that I had a car, I immediately panicked and rushed to the window to check if it was mine. And sure enough, it was my car. But even worse, I saw a dark shadow, like a person, crawling out from underneath it. Oh, that really made me mad. Someone was trying to mess with my new car? No way. I didn't even bother putting on shoes. I ran downstairs as fast as I could, ready to catch the thief and teach him a lesson. But by the time I got down there, the shadow was gone. The car looked totally fine. I looked all around. No one. It was strange because I lived on the second floor and I got down in just a few seconds. The area around my building is really open, nowhere to hide. It was like the person just vanished. I walked around the car a few times. Nothing was stolen, no scratches, no signs of break-in. That's when I remembered. What if the guy was still hiding under the car? So I quickly got down and looked underneath, but no one was there. Just as I was wondering what was going on, that feeling hit me again. That someone was watching me, stronger this time. I leaned in closer and looked carefully, and then I saw something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. It was a knife, wedged in between some parts and wires, just one eyeball, slightly reflecting light. But the way it stared at me, it was full of hatred and resentment. It was locked on me. I was so terrified, I just fell backwards onto the ground. That wasn't a human eye. I mean, it definitely didn't belong to anyone alive. I scrambled back into my apartment, heart pounding. I didn't sleep a wink that night. The next morning, I called the police. Whatever was going on with this car, it wasn't normal. When the officers arrived, they gave the whole thing a thorough inspection. Even though it looked brand new, they pointed out that most of it had been replaced. The body had been completely repainted, the front bumper was new, and the entire car had been meticulously cleaned. But even then, they still found faint traces of blood tucked away in the corners. The atmosphere turned heavy. One of the officers frowned, then gestured for his partner to help him check underneath the chassis, and what they found stopped everyone cold. Wedged deep into a narrow gap beneath the car was a human eyeball. Now this was bad. That car had definitely been involved in the murder. In the end, the police impounded for the time being and told me to wait for further notice. A couple days later, one of the detectives called me. He confirmed that this car had been in a fatal accident. The previous owner had paid a big settlement and then sold the car, thinking it was cursed. The person who got hit, their body was torn apart, and not all the parts were ever recovered. One of the missing parts, an eyeball. And that eyeball had been stuck in the undercarriage the whole time, traveling everywhere with me. That's when everything started making sense. The dark shadow, the creepy feeling like I was being watched, it was all real. I think this is the second time I've told a creepy story involving a second-hand car. Honestly, if you ever buy a used vehicle, do your homework. I don't know if it's true, but in China, there's this saying, if a car keeps getting into little accidents and scratches, it might not be the driver's fault. It might be something wrong with the car itself. Like, it's got some bad energy attached to it. Actually, a lot of people here show respect to their cars. Many taxi drivers and truck drivers even burn incense and pray in their vehicles during the Lunar New Year, offering it for some kind of deity, hoping for safe travels all year round. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's move on to the next story. This happened a few years ago, but every time I think about it, I still get chills. It was during the New Year holiday, and I had gone back to my hometown early. I took the chance to catch up with an old childhood friend. Let's call him Long. Long had been expelled from middle school for getting into fights, never went back, and had been hanging around our small village ever since without a proper job. He was basically like a local thug, but only I knew that deep down, he was actually really dependable. Long lived in a nearby town, pretty far from my place. So when he finally got to see me, he was thrilled and dragged me home for dinner. After some drinks, he suggested we hit a karaoke place and then maybe go to a net cafe afterwards, just like old times. I happily agreed. To liven up the mood, he also invited two of his friends. Both were your typical local gang types. But since it was a new year, most places were closed. We walked for ages and still couldn't find a single open KTV. The freezing wind felt like it was going to tear my ears right off. I wanted to give up and head home, but Long wouldn't have it. Just as I was trying to talk him out of it, one of his friends suddenly shouted, "Hey, over there! This one's open!" We walked over and, sure enough, there it was. A tiny KTV, so small it didn't even have a sign, just a piece of paper taped to the glass. We went in. The inside was just a quiet, long, dimly lit hallway. Looked old and shabby. One of the guys even said, "Are you sure it's okay?" "Man, it's open. Don't be picky." Then the four of us went upstairs. On the second floor, we could hear people singing in the rooms around us, and the atmosphere started to feel more lively. Suddenly, a staff member came out from nowhere and greeted us with a fake-looking smile. "Hello, gentlemen. How many of you?" "Are you blind? Can you count?" "Right, 5 people. This way, please." We were all froze for a second. 5? But there were only 4 of us. We figured maybe it was too dark for him to see clearly, so we didn't make a fuss. He led us to a private room at the end of the hallway. We ordered a fruit platter and a couple of beers. Everything seemed normal. Lon and his 2 friends started goofing around and playing drinking games. It really felt like we were reliving the old days. After a few drinks, I got really thirsty. I grabbed a cherry tomato, bit into it, and almost threw up. The damn thing had gone rotten. It was leaking foul, sour-smelling liquid. It hit my throat like a punch. Long jumped up, thinking I was drunk and tried to help. I told him I was fine, it was just a fruit. He got mad and was gonna to get a refund, but I was afraid he would make a scene, so I decided to handle it myself. Once I stepped out of the room, I took a deep breath, the nausea started to fade, and I went off to find the bathroom. The hallway twisted and turned, and the whole time, I feel like something was different. After I used the bathroom and started to relax, that's when I realized what was different. Everything was silent. Earlier, the place had been filled with people singing. Now, dead quiet. Had everyone left in just a few minutes? The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. I hurried back to the room, but in my rush, I forgot the room number. I just went by memory and opened the door, but the room was pitch black and empty. Oh, I must get the wrong room. So I tried the next one. Still empty. Then, one by one, I started checking each room, calling out for my friends, but no answer. A feeling of loneliness and dread crept over me. Just as I was about to panic, a door suddenly swung open and slammed right into my head. Everything went black for a second. I crouched down, holding my face, and that's when I heard Long calling my name. Dongza! Dongza! Is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Thank God. Come on, we're getting out of here.
What? We're not saying anymore.
Before I could finish, his friends grabbed me and practically dragged me down the stairs. At that point, I still hadn't recovered. I was seeing stars, just being dragged around corner after corner. But wasn't the KTV on the second floor? Why did this staircase feel like it would never end? Minutes passed, and my thighs were starting to burn, but I still couldn't see the end. It was like we were walking in circles, going nowhere. Long was in front, wildly swinging a knife at the air, slicing through the darkness. The sound of the blade cutting wind made everything feel even tenser. Eventually, we made it to the ground floor. The second the door opened and the cold air hit me, I instantly felt more awake. That's when I noticed Long's friends had also drawn knives. I was completely confused. Were they planning to fight someone? They didn't say a word, just stared nervously around us as Long led the way. Finally, we got home. As Long's mother opened the door, the moment she saw me, she gasped. My head was bleeding badly. Apparently, that door had hit me hard enough to break skin, and my face was now covered in blood. Long, acting calm as ever, told her I just slipped on some ice and hit my head, nothing serious. His mom rushed to take care of me, but the whole time, Long just sat on the couch, silent and dazed. Once everything calmed down, his mother looked at us, then glanced outside and suddenly asked, "So, who's the girl in white? Whose girlfriend is she? Why is she just standing out there, not coming in?" That one sentence dropped like a bomb. Long stared at her in shock. "Mom, what are you saying? There's no girl. It was just us four." His mom paused for a second. I think she realized what was going on, but she quickly brushed it off. "Oh, I must have been seeing things," she said, and went back to her room. As his friends left, I was alone with Long. I immediately asked him what had happened. Turns out, it was way scarier than I thought. After I left, they were still singing and having fun, when suddenly, the music stopped and the screen turned blue. They thought the equipment was broken, so they went to find a staff member. But before they got to the door, strange static noises started coming from the speakers, and buried underneath the noise was the faint sound of a girl crying. The whole scene left everyone froze, and Long quickly turned on all the lights. That's when they realized the fruit on the table was all rotten, some even covered in mold. He had a bad feeling and urged his friends to leave, but when they got to the door, no matter how hard they pushed or pulled, it didn't budge. Panic set in. They started ramming the door together, over and over. Finally, it burst open, and at that exact moment, I happened to be standing outside and got slammed right in the face. They didn't even have time to clean me up, just grabbed me and ran for the stairs. It wasn't until we started down the stairs that Long knew for sure this place wasn't right. Somehow, it took us more than a full minute to go down just 2 floors. It felt like they were stuck in some kind of ghost loop. So, Long pulled out his knife and started swinging wildly. Maybe it scared off whatever was hunting us, because the next second, we were out. As for the girl in white, he has no idea who she was and doesn't want to know. The next day, I said goodbye. Before I left, Long handed me 2 little talismans from his mom. They were Buddhist protection charms, very effective, he said. And after that, nothing strange ever happened again. Looking back, it felt like a dream. Maybe we just drank too much that night and had bad luck, bad enough to attract something dark. Who knows? Honestly, I think they must have walked into some kind of ghost establishment. Like, that karaoke place wasn't meant for the living. That's probably why the food there was all rotten. Because everything inside was, well, not real. At least not for people like us. As for the girl in white, I have a feeling she had already latched onto them earlier that night. Maybe while they were walking down those dark streets. That would explain why the staff said there were 5 of them. The next story comes from a post someone shared on Xiaohongshu, the Red Note. The original title was, "My father is like a door I can't push open." At first, everyone thought it was going to be about a tense father-daughter relationship, maybe some emotional friction at home. But as the story went on, things got really weird. The OP wrote, "I'm a student, currently on a break from school because of depression. It's pretty serious. I've taken time off before because of it. But while I've been home resting, I started noticing something really off about my dad. I just needed to let it out somewhere. So here I am." So first, there was this one fight I had with my parents. The reason was simple. My dad just wouldn't leave my room. Like, I'm not a kid anymore. I need my own space and privacy, right? But he just stayed there, watching me. At first, I asked him nicely, like, "Dad, can you please not hang around in my room? I just want to be alone for a bit." But he didn't say a word. I asked again and again. Nothing. He just stood there, like he couldn't hear me at all. It was like talking to a wall. I started crying out of pure frustration, and he still didn't move. Not even a twitch. Then I tried to leave the room to go eat dinner, but when I walked toward the door, he moved and stood in the doorway, blocking me. I tried explaining things calmly. "Dad, seriously, I just want to eat." But it didn't matter. He wouldn't budge. I started trying to push him, not hard at first, but even when I gave it everything I had, I could barely squeeze past him. And every time I did manage to create a little space, he just pushed back and blocked me again. Eventually, I gave up and lay down on my bed crying. Later, I tried several more times, but all failed. He just stood there, blocking me like a mountain. Finally, I managed to squeeze through and got out of the room. I just wanted to get some air, so I headed downstairs. But before I could reach the door, he ran ahead and blocked me again. No matter which direction I moved in, he stepped in front of me like some kind of motion tracking camera, just constantly watching. The thing is, my mom has talked about his weird behavior before, so this time I tried to get her help. I started crying and calling for her, but she didn't respond. So I went to her room myself, and there she was, lying on the bed, casually scrolling through her phone. She looked up at me and just said, "I have a headache," basically telling me not to bother her. Later that day, I was locked in a kind of standoff with my dad for over an hour. I kept trying to talk to him, asking why she was doing this. But she never said a word. Not even when I got angry, he just turned to play with my cat and kept secretly glancing back at me. Finally, I said, "If you don't stop this, I'm calling the police." Still nothing. No reaction at all. Then one night, He was blocking my way like he usually did, but when he turned around, something dropped out of his pocket. It was a key to my room. I told him to give it back. Again, nothing. He always shut down the moment I bring up the key or the blocking the door thing. Totally silence. I was so mad, I ended up calling my grandma. I told her everything, and she was confused too. She didn't know why my dad was acting like this. But she just said, he must be doing it for your own good. Try not to be angry. Just listen to him. As days passed, things only got worse. One night, around 2 a.m., I got hungry and went to the kitchen to steam some buns. I thought my dad had gone to sleep already, but apparently he heard me and came out, said, "Don't steam those. Go to bed." "I'll go to bed after I eat." "Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed." "Stop it! I'm already steaming them." "Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed." He just kept repeating that like some broken machine. And he stood there in the doorway, staring at me without blinking. Only after I finally went back to my room did he stop. At first, I really thought he was just worried about my health, staying up late, not eating properly, things like that. But now, I'm not so sure anymore. That's where the original post ends. But then, someone in the comments dropped this. "Are you sure that's your dad? The way you describe him, it kinda sounds more like your door." Because of that comment, a lot of people believe OP was dealing with some serious depression, maybe even schizophrenia. The way she described her dad silently stopping her sounded a lot like paranoid delusions. Some folks even guessed that her dad wasn't trying to stop her, but was actually trying to keep her from hurting herself, or worse. And judging by what her grandma said, stuff like, "He's doing this for your own good," it feel like they all knew something she didn't. That kind of makes you think, when someone's deep in mental illness, they might really see their family's love as control. And all those barriers could just be desperate attempts to keep them safe. But then again, there's another side to it. Some people think OP wasn't hallucinating at all, but was actually trying to subtly call out her dad for being overly controlling. Because when she first posted the story, the picture she used was something creepy but familiar. Kitty from level 974 in the backrooms. Some of you might not be familiar with the whole backroom thing, so let me give a quick rundown. The backroom is kind of an internet horror concept. The idea is, if you glitch out of reality, you might end up in this endless maze of old, yellow rooms with buzzing fluorescent lights. It looks like an empty office building, but it just goes on forever. There are levels, weird creatures, and each level has its own creepy vibe. It started as a meme, but now there's a whole creepy universe built around it. One of those levels is level 974. On the surface, it looks like a peaceful daycare or playroom for kids, but in the middle of it all stands a strange figure known as Kitty. Most of the time, Kitty doesn't attack people. It doesn't talk either, just silently blocks a way forward. You can stay in Kitty's house as long as you like, but the longer you stay, the more trapped you feel. Kinda similar to her dad, right? A man who never speaks, never reacts, just stands there in front of the door, blocking her path. He's not aggressive, he doesn't yell or hate, but that kind of control feels like a brick wall, like a door that'll never open. So, if you think of her dad as a symbol, then the story became a metaphor. He is the feeling of being trapped by your own family, the kind of pressure that doesn't truly hurt you, but just quietly crushes you until there's nowhere to go. So, what's this story really about? Is it a girl battling mental illness, caught up in her own nightmares? Or is it her way of asking for help, of telling the world, "Look how trapped I am," without actually saying it out loud? Later, after the post started getting more attention, the police actually reached out to OP. Not long after that, she edited the post. Not deleted it, just changed it. Now it says, This photo reminded me of a post I read a while ago. A father is like a patch of darkness, quiet and hard, standing against a wall, almost blending into it. He's unclear, unresponsive. He doesn't say no, but he doesn't say yes either. He just stands there, hollow, swallowing everything. And yet somehow, he always follows like a shadow. Honestly, I hope this is just some moody teenager being dramatic. Because if it's not, if it's really about how she feels inside, then oh god, that's some heavy pain for someone so young. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. Alright, that's it for this video. Next week's stories are from Chinese netizens based on their real-life experiences. I know you like this kind of story. So, I'll see you next Saturday, same time, same place. Don't miss it.